does have the coolest hat on the show tonight for sure. Hi, everyone.
Thanks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Laser Source Podcast, #1 podcast if you like cool hats. Matt and I got left out of this sick cool hat game,
Started
but
to get the memo.
these two, on the other hand,
They
Mr.
did it to make us feel
Mr.
bad.
Kyle, they got some cool hats. I mean, it's like I live my life and I'm just looking at hats and I'm like, that's a cool hat, and we gotta call that out, just like we have to call out our sponsor, Johnson Plastics Plus.
Cool
These guys have been supporting the podcast and the channel for quite a while now, and I think we're over a year, aren't we? So over a year now with Johnson Plastics Plus as their sponsor. They've got a lot of really, really awesome stuff if you are looking to get some blanks for laser engraving. I mean, that's really noted, Kyle. That is really their shining star of their stock. In fact, do you guys remember the ultimate leatherette engraving guide that I did not too long ago?
Like 6 months ago, I think, right?
It was like 6 months ago. Yeah. I finally sat down and I got through like 70% of the slate one today, which is pretty cool. It's all using Johnson Plastics Plus slate, which is actually different than the stuff you can get on Amazon. I don't know if you knew this, but the stuff on Amazon is either like raw, chalky slate, or it's like someone dipped it in like an enamel clear coat, and there's no in between. It's like one or the other. And the JB Plus one, because I was trying to match it, I was looking for a setting today so I could include it in the video, and I was trying to pick one of my other stocked slates so I could approximate the settings. It's like a semi-gloss, I guess. I don't. There's not too much to say about it, but it was just kind of like a weird middle of the road. So I didn't have a matching slate. I ended up squeezing it onto one of the ones I already had from them. But it's nice. So, if you want nice stuff, use the link down in the description. It helps support the channel. There's a discount code down there for you. 15% off almost anything in the store. Go ahead, Matt. You're here, man.
YLR-ZDF, but it may not always be that way. So check when you see this video in the links below to see if it's changed.
Yeah, please do. And I think that's it for them, guys. Just a big thank you to them. We wouldn't be here without their support, so we're really grateful for that. That said, just before we like go off on whatever we want to talk about today, I thought it would be a good idea to jam a hard drive that I found on the floor somewhere into my computer, and I've broken it. And now it will not turn
sounds
on.
Like you so hard.
What I heard was I found a hard drive and I jammed it into a thing.
I'm literally like
just
looking at wires right now. So I'm going to try to fix it before the show because I feel like something's just loose or misseated somewhere. So if I can, I will. But I'm here, and I'm hanging out. But I will give you guys the chance to talk about your laser lives before I jump in with my stuff. We have some new content out. We had a bunch of fun projects in the shop. If you guys are watching this, you've probably already seen it. But, I'm happy to talk about that because I've got, we've obviously been busy over at the shop. But I'd love to hear from you guys. How's everybody else doing while I fiddle with this nonsense?
I always start off, I want to hear what Anthony's been up to. What do you got, Anthony? What you been up to?
Me personally, this past week I've been doing a lot of the cleaning that I didn't get a chance to in January. Things are actually finally slowing down for me a little bit. So doing pretty good. I've had some really cool projects. If you follow Discord, then you've probably seen a lot of the stuff I've been doing. I had a lady whose father, like 5 years ago, I think, had a military funeral, and there were 11 of the shell casings that she gathered from the 21 gun salute. So she brought those to me and wanted me to engrave like his name and his birth date and then the branch that he served in on these shell casings. But they'd been sitting around for years, so they were really badly tarnished. So I was like, well, I will polish these and engrave them and do this and that. And so that's what I did. And if you want to see the end result, I actually ended up taking some like poplar board that I had laying around and some leather, and I made a little display with the same thing as name and dates and the branch that he served in, and had it so that the casings would actually fit in it, kind of in like a bowling pin shape. And just gave it to her. I was like, I was bored on a Friday. I didn't have anything else better to do. So
Was that
I threw
that sounds
in.
like a multi-laser project then, right? Like, what did you?
Yeah, I actually cut the leather and the wood with the diode, and I did the engraving with the 70 millimeter lens on the brass casings. And I actually took a little bit of liver of silver and put that, and the brass casings really responded well to that. Brass is kind of hit or miss with liver of silver. Copper's really good. Bronze is pretty good, but brass, depending on like the 10 composition, I think it responds differently. So some of my brass coins don't respond at all, but the brass casings actually had a really good reaction, and I polished them, and they turned out great. So yeah, that was kind of one of the cooler things I've worked on in the last.
The higher quality pieces, I feel like you get a better hit on that stuff versus like the ones from Swiss Wii. Like his always come out nice, but then like the ones I get from Amazon.
Yeah, it just depends, you know. Like the ones I got from China were like a little bit cupped, like pepperonis, because they stamp them.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit disappointed in that, but it just make do with what you got. But yeah, there were Swiss Buoys really good coins. We were talking about that actually today on Discord. I think in the coins
I know I saw that in the coin channel, challenge.
But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to, and I have some other things going on that I'll probably release some videos on soon. So stay tuned on that. But
over at Beam It Up Laser Works on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you got, Kyle? What have you been working on, man?
I've been testing the mini diode laser from Longer, and I've had some weird brain fog problems from when I was sick. So I've been working through that, but that's neither here nor there. And some family stuff I've been working on, and some 3D printing stuff.
Oh, yeah, what you got 3D printing wise?
Fine tuning what we talked about last week. So I have a couple different sizes and setups and hole spacings and screw sizes for the weird laser beds that use M4s and M5s instead of M6s, and all kinds of stuff. So I've been working on that. I've also been catching up on the LMA. There's been a lot of awesome conversations going on over there, a lot of cool tips and a lot of cool write-ups from a lot of cool people.
Can you explain to me, because I genuinely don't understand, this isn't for the sake of the show, and I'm just not up to date on it, but what exactly did Bambu do to piss everybody off? I know it was some like cricket bullshit, but I don't understand the specifics. Can you explain it to me?
So the context around why Bambu upset a lot of people is more or less the same argument around a lot of things based on change. So you have the freedoms to do certain things right now and before, and the verbiage in their terms of use changed, which partially changes the terms of sale for people who've potentially bought their 3D printer 2+ years ago at this point, which is upsetting in and of itself. That's just a whole nother problem. But the other side of that is the freedoms for using different slicers and the potential for them locking people out of that and other third-party products. And the road that goes down in terms of proprietary filament, like in the Stratasys world, if you're big on 3D printing, where you have proprietary material usage and stuff like that. They've already made public statements denying that a lot of certain things will not happen, and the community has mixed feelings about a lot of that. So it's hard to say. I have mixed opinions on it all. I'm still very new to the 3D printing space in general, even though I've been designing stuff and investigating into and learning about it over the last year or two. But I mean, it's kind of like the equivalent of let's say JCZ were to say, hey, we know Lightburn exists, but you can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
We did a firmware update over the air. Yeah. We did a firmware update over the air, and you can no longer use Lightburn. You have to use EasyCAD 2.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not we update it or not, or change anything, you have to use it. That's kind of like the equivalent. It's not the total equivalent because
I was gonna say
the materials are literally intended to be whatever you want them to be. But
what are you using with your Bambu printer now?
I've bounced between Orca Slicer and Bambu Studio.
Okay, so if you had to use Bambu Studio,
it's not bad.
There are some minor differences, but I would live. But there are also other people. So a lot of the concern comes in for people who are running a print farm.
right?
So you have 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 of the same or even different printers. Bambu Studio sometimes doesn't have the tools you want or need when you're doing stuff with that many printers.
Sure.
That other softwares that are intended to work with that many printers can handle much more easily,
right,
and much more efficiently at that kind of scale. And so one of the big concerns in the community is people who run print farms who use these third-party management softwares. They were concerned that they were going to get locked out.
I see.
See, and this is where like people like me, I literally go on to their website and I'm like, oh, cool, something neat, or hey, something useful. And then, or like the things that I'm making are really simple where I don't really worry about it. So I think they ostracize such a small percentage of their like super users that they kind of are just like, it's worth it if they did that. Because like Kyle said, it's kind of like a it could or maybe kind of situation anyways. So it's like,
yeah, the moves that they're making. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought
Oh, you're good.
Do you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like people like me, I'm just happy to have something that makes cool stuff. Like I made this egg. Like check this thing out. Look at this. Boom. Right? And it just printed in place and it literally like spins. Well, I don't know. It spins when you want it
to. If you know how to use it, it spins.
Well, it does, but like it's so like literally it's so.
That's what she said.
Oof. Anyways,
so
it's like a little hideable egg, but it's like one of those 3D prints where it prints in place. It's super easy, and then like I didn't have to do anything but press a button. I don't really care. I'm never going to design something like this because I don't have the knowledge or the desire to learn how.
Mm-hmm.
But like. For people who design stuff like Kyle was saying, he's kind of more of like a moderate user where he's going to do stuff with it. Cool. I will pay people like Kyle for his file and then print it.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. But yeah, there's definitely like multiple camps for like how they feel about all this stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You brought up a good point too. So with their market share being a lot of elementary, middle school, high school STEM programs and government programs that don't involve security secrets and stuff like that, because that's a whole nother air gap situation. But the situation around that is really they're bringing the technology to a consumer market that's more concerned about having appliances versus like a tech project, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
like
they
Lockheed Martin is not having like a 10 of these.
So they're the X tool of the 3D printer world.
Kinda, yeah. I mean that's a fair analogy. So anyways, there are also third-party things. Actually, Jack and a couple other people have been chatting about it in chat here, where there's so you have the X1 Carbon X1 model that has the touchscreen, the really nice touchscreen, and then you have the P1S, which is the chopped down version of that model to make it more affordable.
Sure.
Well, Cheedy and a couple other companies have come out with mods to access basically the web interface for the printer and give you a custom touchscreen that you can just mount to the printer. So you can either use the monochromatic crappy remote on the front of the printer,
Yeah.
or you can use the touchscreen. I actually have one of those kits that I removed, and I'm probably going to reinstall at some point. But the access for that is potentially going to go bye-bye too. And the way around that, and actually, I mean, at least there's an option, but Bambu said you can leave your printer in LAN mode and just don't update the firmware, and you don't lose access to that stuff. But the problem is then you lose access to half of the convenience features that you got the printer for. So
Sure.
Long answer to a short question, but
Yikes. Yeah, I know this isn't
complex,
the
weird thing.
I know
there's a
this isn't-
lot of reasons to be on one side of the fence or the other, or even somewhere in the gray area.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people too that are like, even if you're someone like I've read in a couple of different forums too, there's people like me who are like newer end users, but they're like pissed because they're like, fuck you, I paid $1,000 for this, don't tell me what I can do with it, you know. But when you buy those things and you do their license agreements, you know, you're signing up for that. So
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I know this isn't the 3D printing everything podcast, but I was curious because you brought it up, and I haven't. Yeah, I still have a murky idea of what it's all about, but I guess it doesn't really apply to me, so I'm not super concerned about it.
In terms of your understanding, it's the equivalent of, like I said, if JCZ made all their EasyCAD 2 boards something that could be updated over the air.
Yeah.
And they updated it so that their command interface or language that the software uses could no longer speak to Lightroom.
I can explain it in Alex like terms. Remember in Jurassic Park when Newman was like,
You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. That's basically the entire situation in a nutshell.
You know what my favorite quote from that movie is? When Samuel L. Jackson's like, hold on to your butts, when he's about to like reset the circuit breaker or whatever.
He's got like the cigarette hanging out.
What's funny is people who are watching the show are like, why is he bringing up Jurassic Park? And then Alex is like, I have a favorite quote from that movie.
I do. I have many favorite quotes from that movie. Mr. Arnold.
My goodness.
Pivotal character.
Let's see. For me this week, I had another order of these 0.8 mil business cards. So I had like a stack of these sitting back here that I did. Little two-sided ones. Pretty nice. Same company. They liked them so much they wanted to give them. They own like 5 or 6 different restaurants, so they basically made like management and like middle management staff these cards that kind of have like their motto, and I guess it's kind of like they just wanted to have them to remember it, like keep it in their pocket, you know, where it's like, hey, you know, if someone asks you, hey, why do you do these things? It's right there on a card, and they have answers.
Yeah, there's a company that I do work for every other year. They order 2 years worth. Usually it's stainless steel 0.8 mils or 0.5 to point-ish, whatever. And it's like the company values. So very similar. It's like new hires get this packet, and then that is a stainless steel card that says what the company's mission is, and on the back, whatever the values are for their employees.
And I think that's actually what this is. I think they ordered it for their managers first, and I think they're coming back because it, like, why wouldn't you want your employees to have that? Like, where it's like, hey, man, like, you know why we're here. You know why we do this. And it's really
like
cool.
doing a Miranda card for the police.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, yes.
That's like a good one. I've actually seen those on Etsy and a couple of places too, where people can like order them for their loved ones who are about to get. So like on the front, it has their name and information. On the back, it has the Miranda rights.
Yeah, we just got a brand new police chief in our town, and I took his name and then the police's like their department logo on one side, and on the back, I put the Miranda rights.
That's the kind of thing you can charge like $10 for easy, because that's literally going to put criminals away, or it may
And it's a lot better than like a laminated piece of crap that gets wadded up in your wallet and you lose it, or it gets crumpled, or
that's the kind of thing you can keep in the tough wallet, and it's going to be nice, you know, like an aluminum wallet.
Very durable.
The laminated pieces of paper that get folded a couple times, the laminate turns white and you can't read it anymore.
Or yellow,
or the paper on the inside starts to crumble and fall apart on the inside.
When I was in the military, we had to carry those on our web gear. And after just being in the sun and sweat for a while, they would just yellow. and the paper inside it would be like a little crack that the moisture would grit through, so it turned
Yeah.
to crap. So,
And then the other project I'm working on, I haven't set it up yet because I'm waiting on final numbers before I mess with it. But it's basically these glasses again, the On the Rocks glasses,
Nice.
which I think I showed you guys last time.
Mhm.
So this is the one where his party's over, right? Age to perfection. Jerry turned 50. Congrats, Jerry. But the other one that I'm doing is actually going to be, I did these last year. This makes it so much easier to do. There's a guy who has a rally racing company, and basically every year he hosts a rally race in a different city. And so basically it's the same logo, put the name of the city underneath it. And
nice.
so this year it's going to be in Star City. And so he puts them at the bottom of the glass, and he gives them, when they get there, he actually has ammo boxes that he has, like, like the aluminum ammo boxes. But he has those UV printed with like the colorful stuff. Because we talked about doing those. Like I told him I can do them, but the price he gets them for UV printed is so cheap because he orders like 100 of them. Like I can't touch that. So he puts 2 glasses in each one of those, and then the last thing he also last year got like a bottle opener from me. So I don't know if he's going to order those this year or not, because he tries to keep like some things the same, so that way you can kind of like have like a set of glasses, But then he was trying to figure out like something else. So if you guys in the chat, I can't see the chat, but if you guys have the whatchamajig, like any ideas for me, like what would fit inside of an ammo box, it'd be pretty dope.
Ammo.
Soda,
Yeah, there you go.
This is ammo.
beer.
Let me engrave that. Hold on, we're gonna do it live. Rip Matt. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then I'm actually trying to. There's a local store that might let me come in and do some engraving in their shop, which would be pretty cool. Where basically like they want to do coaster engravings, but they said they want to take 20% of the sales, but they'll just let me set up a shop right next to the cash register, so I'm right in the middle of the flow. And they literally have like dozens of people in there at a time doing all kinds of stuff. And so basically it'd be pretty dope if I could be on their Wi-Fi, pull some stuff, like have some things prepared, like Anthony had said before in the past, where like you have like that book of like idea, here's the 10 fonts I can do, or 5 fonts I can do.
Or even just a clipboard, because that's what I did for Christmas.
Yeah.
Was I did on Small Business Saturday, they wanted us to have like something we're pushing. And I did like 5 different designs of wooden stocking tags. And then I put 3 different fonts that were like, one was like a handwritten looking one was kind of a scripty font, and one was just block lettering. And I was like, this is what you get to choose from. Tell me what you want and I'll do it. And yeah, it went over pretty well.
Yeah, and that's where like stuff like this, like the bottle openers, like that. Anthony, do you still sell these?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
and I hand those out with like tape sales and stuff too. People love them. They work well with the black ones like you have work really well with every laser. The stainless ones, CO2 and UV might not be the greatest for, but fiber and diode can do something with them. So.
Yeah. So I've got a few of those, and I've got some stainless steel ones that I got from you. I'm pretty sure they're from you too. So I basically just have like a box of stuff that I can just take there, and it's just gonna be like $5, $10, $15, and it's gonna be like they're gonna add the items to their sales, and at the end of the day, they just basically like PayPal me or Venmo me my 80%.
Nice.
So easy peasy. I don't even have to mess with the cashier, and they're like, unless they want to pay cash, you can take cash. I was like, I will take cash. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited about that. And I think that's about it, man.
Nice.
Yeah, what's going on at the shop? I saw the video that you put out yesterday, right?
Yeah, so I just put out 2 big ones. One was the prep and one was the actual engraving. And we did Chris's table is done. So he's been working on
Looks dope, dude.
Yeah, his D&D
Jealous.
table for like a couple months now. And it's really, really nice, especially for the materials. It's all like soft pine and 2x4s, and he just did a really, really good job staining it and cutting it, and it looks much, much more expensive than it is. And so we had to finish it off with an engraving.
Did he
course.
buy plans for that somewhere, or did he just kind of like?
He found
that in the frame?
he found like free plans along with like a really crappy tutorial.
Yeah,
that like
sounds
kind of
right.
came along with it, where the guy was just like, "This is kind of how I made this," and then he had to kind of work off of that, you know. But he really liked that specific design, and from the beginning, he wanted an engraving on it. So it was a little nerve wracking because I had just watched him put fucking 2 months into this stupid
It sounds
table.
like
or
it would have
whatever,
been a
but-
good opportunity for him to film making it.
Dude, you know, I thought about filming him making it, and I just simply haven't had the time. You guys know I haven't had the time, especially because he was the majority of the time he had been building that. I was trying to do the podcast catch up. In case you missed it for some reason last week, we are caught up on the podcast. Woo! But yeah, so I just like didn't have the time, but I thought that would have been something cool for like the Make Army channel, you know, just completely unrelated, but in the shop. But yeah, so there's 2 episodes up. One, we just kind of do the prep work and the testing to figure out what exactly he wants to do. And then the second one, we do it. And Rhiannon hosts it. She did a great job. It was like kind of her
Really
first,
did. Yeah.
her first like main video. She sounds like she knows what she's talking about. She's mostly confident. So that was kind of like a nice showcase of like how far she's come since she started. And yeah, it's a good episode. I put a lot of like editing sweat into that one too. I don't know if you guys could tell, but there's
Yeah, it
like
was good. Like the music was on point. Everything was nice.
there's a lot of layering going on with like her commentary versus like what's happening on screen and stuff. So they're pretty like just technically complex episodes as well.
Yeah. Plus, the reason I was kind of laughing to myself there a second ago is because, like, she, out of all of us, I think she's like Anthony and her are probably like the Diode champions with like the stuff they've made and done. So, like, I mean, that was really cool. I was sitting there thinking, like, oh, they're going to use the CO2 galvo, but then how smart was it to stick the X tool? Spoilers, by the way. But they stuck the X tool like right in the middle of the table and just let her rip. And I was like, oh, damn, that's genius. Like, really smart. There's actually a question in chat about it too.
Oh yeah.
I just remembered I can like just watch the video on this on this thing. Someone asked, who was it? Oh my gosh, I think it was Rick. Oh, Clifton McReynolds. That was way off. Said, were there any issues with laser engraving wood that's been stained? Like, did you guys?
None. It was
Make sure it's dry.
Yeah, make sure it's dry, right? You don't want to ignite like vapors or anything. I guess there's a hazard there, but no, we didn't have any issues engraving. If anything, it did a better job because he used like a dark walnut stain, and that probably helped the absorption of the 455 nanometer. So it was incredibly clean. It looked amazing when it was done.
It really was.
We actually had to do it twice. I don't show it in the video, but like after,
terrifying.
Yeah, no, well, not like a second pass. We had to do the whole thing over because right after the video, so one thing I will warn you about, I didn't think it was a big deal, but Chris has been really picky about his table, and for good reason. You saw we chalked the table to get the chalk lines so that we could find center.
Mm-hmm.
Chris swears, and I don't agree, but I'm colorblind, so the fuck am I? Chris swears that the chalk left like a very faint blue hue along the lines where we chalked it that he could not get out.
Not as far as you know.
Dude, you know, so Rhiannon doesn't really think there's that much there either. If anything, and he cleaned it real good. He didn't damage the stain, but he decided that he was going to try to like stain over it, ended up staining into the engraved area a little bit, and then tried to like sand that out to fix it. The whole thing just like looked like somebody melted it with a blowtorch by the time he was done. So he ended up sanding. He resurfaced the entire tabletop after that episode was filmed.
Oh man.
He resurfaced the entire thing. And then fun fact, you know the shot where Rhiannon's slowly lowering the leaflet back into the table at like the very end? That is the second engraving, not the first
Okay.
one. I shot that after Chris had resurfaced it. Then he restained the whole thing, and then we put the X tool back on the tabletop and engraved it again. And
Good
he
Lord.
and he sealed it again. So that shot of Rhiannon lowering the leaflet is actually of the second generation of that engraving. So it's a little.
So now
So-
she literally is an expert. She did it twice.
So
Yeah.
I forget what it's called, but there's an actual term for that. So like if it's not actually there, but you see it's there as like an abjuration kind of thing. I don't understand why it does that, and like for some people, but it could just be the attachment of wanting it to be perfect.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's called
But
mental illness, my dude.
I was going to say that, but I didn't feel like it was my place.
I've been definitely attached to certain projects where I wanted them to be absolutely perfect, and I was being OCD.
Yeah.
And like this little thing that just nobody would notice, I felt like was there and super noticeable. I ended up scrapping and redoing the whole thing.
I'm totally guilty of that. I'll point stuff out to customers all the time, and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's
bro.
nothing there.
Like,
See,
yeah,
when
I'm
it's
so
my
anal
stuff-
retentive. I'll be like, you know what? I'm really sorry this didn't turn out perfect for you because you see this little blemish right there. They're like, I don't know. What
There's
you're
a
talking about.
blemish.
Yeah, exactly. So
When it's my stuff, I don't care, but when it's customer stuff, like everything matters.
yeah, I'm neurotic about it. It's
I'm
so
like, my
bad.
name is gonna be on this, and someone somewhere is gonna be like, "This is shit."
Mhm.
Like, that guy sucks.
I hold my customers' opinions like to my standard when it comes to like what you see. And I'm like, oh, my heater turned on and there's a little jiggle line right there. I don't know what happened. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. It looks
You hand
great.
it to him, and you got the puckered.
Yeah, and then Anthony's like, you know what? This one's free. Don't forget about it.
I mean, I've done that, but I try not to anymore.
By the way, have we said hello to all the people in chat? Because there's a lot.
Not enough. I don't feel like there's some new peeps in here.
Yeah.
If you're in chat, hit the like button.
Also, at some point, I glanced over and saw, I don't know if you missed my question, but, and to whoever
we
that
will
was,
go back. We
go back at the end and
We're
cycle
working
through all
toward
the
it.
comments and questions. So don't worry, we didn't miss you.
That's about when we're going back right now. So let's
Yeah,
see.
we're
We
about
got-
to.
Stephen Doornbos already
Ooh.
submitted his February coin challenge submission. So
Very nice.
That was
What's the
speedy.
theme for February? Love.
Yeah.
90s horror.
Oh, I'm like, is it love? Yes, of
Yes.
90s was.
Yeah, it's my
I mean,
bloody
horse.
Valentine. That's probably going to be mine. That'll be my theme. Remember that with the miner mask and the
Yes.
kids partying? And yeah.
Yeah, God. All right, let's see. So we got Engraved Dreams. What's up? Resin Dragons is here. What's up, Resin? I thought she was supposed to be on the show this week. Yeah,
She
Well,
was.
she
That's-
said check
That's
the
my
email.
bad. We talked, and then I stopped talking to her because we got
What an idiot.
busy with stuff. We're still gonna have you on,
Typical
Resin.
Alex.
Congratulations on your. She got like a new webcam set up, and she's like all
Oh,
done up. Yeah, she's all ready to go. So I
I
did
say
not
the good
forget
news is
about
now
you.
you got the time to get ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to reach out to you on Facebook. I suck at emailing because I send an email and then forget that we're having an email
Dude,
conversation. I need
Have
something
her talk to
more.
Miranda or Kyle.
Yeah, probably we'll end up doing
Honestly.
that. But anyway, yeah, Resin will be here. Resin agreed to come on.
Nice. We got Ian Nichols, big fan of the podcast. Found you on Spotify. What's up, Ian?
Hey yo,
Craig Bell. This looks like new. Oh, hi guys. Fiber newbie, but everyone's
Yep, I
pointing
was
towards
gonna
the
bring that one up.
parameter library for 60 watts. Any ideas when it'll be up again?
what?
Should be up again now.
I noticed the Make Army stuff was down today too when I was trying to like refresh into
Oh,
it.
good to know.
Okay,
Well-
well, I'll get to that after my personal computer is running again.
Sorry to break that
There
to
you
you
go.
live, brother.
That's okay. Thank you.
And then we got Sean Berry said we got Yuri. Nice. What's up, Yuri? You got Jack in the shop.
Yuri.
Yuri.
Gee,
Buddy.
Yeah, and if we're gonna make sure we get these questions, we just want to say, hey, I thought I saw Laura in here somewhere. Oh, John Upstring's here. What's up, John? Let's see. Craig back. Man, there's a lot of people talking. You weren't kidding. Mark Wood is here. My goodness, they are just going to town.
Yep.
And then I swear I saw Laura. Am I crazy?
I haven't seen Laura actually.
Laser Love Creation. There it
Laura's
is.
up at the
Cheryl.
top.
Oh,
Yeah.
she is. All right, good.
Hey,
Good to
Laura.
see you, Laura.
And then and there you go. That's pretty much everybody.
Yep.
John F. Tring, Sean Berry, Jack in the Shop. Oh yeah, Mickey Burr is here. What's up, Mickey?
Hey, Mr. Coin Challenge champion himself,
Yeah.
Mickey Burr.
So,
You had
I'm
like
showing up like
22
just fashionably late
votes.
to be like, oh hey guys.
Yeah.
What's up?
Put your crown on, sir, because you are the victor.
There you go. Kyle, you got any good questions over there?
yeah, I do. So here's the updated question. Craig says, everyone is pointing me towards you for a parameter library for my 60-watt MOPA, but I understand it's down. Any idea when it's back up again? It's not down. Go to the lasereverything.net site. Yes. Go to the lasereverything.net site, and right on the homepage, you'll see a segment where it mentions the free starter parameter library. And you click into that, and you can pick fiber, CO2.
Click on my guy there.
What?
Click on my screen share, Dilly.
Oh.
We'll show them. Boom. So yeah.
Whammo!
So all this stuff is here, but really what you're looking for, Kyle, tell them where. Where is it?
Kyle, tell them what they've won.
We've won
free
free starter settings
pack.
packs. And just like you said, it is underneath fiber, CO2 galvo, or CO2 gantry. So you would click fiber, and right there you just
and then you got your download.
And and it's right there. One download in progress. Boom.
Every lens and laser wattage combination is included.
Yep. And then there's also all kinds of stuff in there. Like there's the EasyCAD 2, the laser parameter converter. My God, there's so much stuff in there. Go take a look.
Pro tip, because this is a question I get daily at this point. When you download that parameter library and you have a MOPA laser that has an unlocked pulse width, which if you have a 60-watt JPT, that's exactly what you have. Pulse width is unlocked for your source, which means you have to designate a pulse width in order to get full use out of your laser. That parameter library is tuned around a 200 pulse width, which is what the JPT LP series puts out by default with their locked pulse width.
Yes.
So when you go to tune your settings and test them out, make sure you set the pulse width explicitly to 200 to start out.
A lot of times it'll start at like 50 or 70 or some weird number.
Or 3.
Very true.
But yeah.
Is this something that's been discussed before?
It's like, no, it's not.
I think
the pulse width? Yeah.
Yeah, the pulse width, there are actually like 17 presets that JPT puts in the software that controls the source, where there's like a pulse width of 1, which is what they call continuous wave or CW, and then there's 2, and then there's like 5, and then there's like 20, and then there's like 50. So there's actually like 17 steps between like 1 and 500 usually. And each of those steps is pre-programmed. So if you put in 235, but it's like 200 and 250, it's actually going to round probably up to 250. So you're running at 250 nanohertz or nanoseconds versus the actual 235 that you actually plugged in. Is that something that's really been discussed much? Or is this kind of like uncharted territory?
I have heard that and I believe it, but I haven't. When I edit my pulse width, I change it by like 100 at a time anyway. So it's not like I'm ever in a situation where I'm like, oh, my pulse was 116. I'm going to try 117, you know? So I would argue like the way that I've used my lasers, that hasn't really affected me.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, that could be news to someone who is spending a giant amount of time kind of like doing really fine-grained adjustments and expecting it to make a difference. And
that's something I've kind of seen in some areas, but yeah, I just thought that was something I'd bring up real quick while we were talking about it.
Yeah, but that's something worth knowing.
Yeah, each source has its own manual, and inside that manual is going to have a chart that shows pulse durations.
It's like
and then what they call the cutoff frequency, and the cutoff frequency is where your laser is going to make its most power. So like 100-watt source at like 70 kilohertz at 200 nanoseconds will make 100 watts straight up, and that's where you're going to get your most ablation, right? But if you go down, you're going to run into it's not making enough pulses to make the power, right? And then if you go up, it's where it's making too many pulses to ablate, but you're still transmitting heat. So just take a look at that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at like a source of like where I'm going to be able to make power or, you know, not, then you can actually confer to that chart, and they're available online too, where if somebody wants to know kind of like a starting point for different durations and stuff like that, you can look at that.
Into Branding is saying, please show an example of the pulse width chart. We have a ton of examples for download for free, again, on the website. So if you go to the website, there's a huge collection of manuals and spec sheets for a ton of different lasers and laser sources that you can dig through. And often, very often, in those files, that information is included. So I would, at the very least, dig through those and see if you can find what you're looking for. Also, if you have something, I always like to shout this out when I think of it. If you have something you don't see on the site, feel free to submit it to us because we will add it. We're always trying to grow the collection. So
that's it. The next question, Kyle. That was a good one.
We got Mark. Can you use a fiber laser to etch glass? Kinda, but not really. So the problem,
not legally. That was what I was thinking in my head.
I was just gonna say this is a Vince question because like he's the guy that to me figured out one of the best ways to do it.
There was like a tempera paint kind of coating that people were putting on the glass, and it's kind of like a cheat, but it's like, can you use a wrench as a hammer? Right? Like, I mean, you can beat a nail into a piece of wood with a wrench. Is it the best tool to do it? Not even close. Like a hammer.
If you ask just about any electrician why they don't carry a hammer, it's because they carry a hammer in the form of lineman pliers.
So it's like there's a right tool for the job, there's a wrong tool for the job, and then there, like in the middle, there's like a tool that you can kind of like cheat to do the job, but it's not really the best tool for the job. So it's kind of like what fiber is with glass. Like there's ways you might be able to manipulate it and cheat it, but it's probably not going to be the best way to do it.
Yeah. And then just so you know, go ahead, Kyle.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the best tool would be the UV because basically it's gonna have the best ablation on the surface, like to actually get you removal of it without microfracturing to where you're gonna have issues.
The UV is the only laser that will give you ablation on
Correct. That's why I said it's the best tool for sure. And then the CO2 would be the second best, where like you've got a really easy opportunity to get those. They're all over the place, but it creates microfracturing, which looks like what you're probably used to. And then you have processing. So you're gonna have to use some type of a cheat, which is like I think Alex or was it last Tuesday already, where you talked about the Dawn soap, right?
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep, so that works. You can use the Blaze orange tape. You can just use a sandblaster. A lot of people hit it with the laser and then hit it with the sandblasting. I know Alex was looking at that or something, or maybe
you were doing it on diode, Anthony. What were you doing?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And there's that
diode with blue painter's tape that you use a magic mark to color black, or buy some black painter's tape. You can get it on Amazon or wherever.
What was your percentage success rate, by the way? Was that like
100%, dude? It's easy. Like the tape gives like a medium for the laser beam to hit and interface with the surface of the glass. So you'll see a little bit of like the paper texture in the engraving, but it'll work 100%.
Clean up nice.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's clearly the lowest barrier to entry is a diode laser and some black tape.
And like a rotary too, right?
If you only have a fiber, I would argue that if you're trying to get into glass at the lowest possible cost, rather than dealing with fiber hacks, I would get a diode.
Buy a $200 diode laser and some $5 tape and do it. Yeah,
one that comes with a rotary bundled with it.
You should
Yeah.
probably buy 7 to 8 rolls of that tape.
Good option would be like an X-Tool RA2 Pro, or one of the ones that I've actually been playing with a little bit here and there at the shop. Underserved as far as my content goes. I need to publish some videos for them because I was sitting back and really appreciating how good a machine they really are. But the We Create systems are
nice,
super nice, dude, and they come with a rotary. They come with their own dedicated rotary port. There's a lot of reasons why they're brilliant machines. I actually just plugged
the cost on their base model just came down, I think.
Yeah, I just plugged the 20 and the 40 watt in side by side, so you can like open up both lids now, and it's like
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a sick little setup, and I'm hoping to do a little more content with them just because again, I feel like I've kind of underserved them for how cool they are. So I'm going to do a little more about that. But anyway, neither here nor there. The point is they come with a rotary and they are a diode. So then you would just need to get some black tape and you'd be good to go from beameduplasertape.com. Boom, you're doing glass. And that would absolutely be the cheapest way to jump in right away without dealing with the fiber hacks, which I really don't think are worth it. That is just not the right wavelength. It's just not the right wavelength. And I've seen the work you do, Anthony, on glass, and it's incredible. It's really, really, really good. There's no reason why people shouldn't be.
To me, getting the diode and then doing the glass work would be a great way to pay for a fiber.
Yep.
Could be, yeah. Especially around this time of year with Valentine's Day, you can go to Goodwill and buy a $2 vase and have a rotary or even like a hot dog roller. Throw some tape on that thing with a 5 or 10 watt laser, because I've engraved glass with a 5 watt, a 10 watt, and a 20 watt laser, and I think it all really comes out pretty much the same. So you don't even have to invest that much money into it. And like Matt said, you can do enough work to get up to where you're buying a fiber. Even I truly believe like UV is going to start becoming like the entry level laser for people. I think the price points have fallen into the point where with the Omni 1, people are going to start buying UV lasers before they even get fiber lasers, because you can mark on so many different things versus engrave on them. And I think it's really like the Swiss Army knife of lasers, the UV. And I think pretty much everybody's going to agree with that. If you fall into like a more specialized niche where you want to do like firearms engraving on metal, well, okay, you're running into wanting to do fiber probably. But if you want something that's going to do everything pretty decently, I think the UV is probably going to become the best entry level like galvo laser out there. Now, I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
It's unfortunate that it's the most dangerous of all the lasers.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
For sure, dude. For sure. Like I've had glass reflect UV light onto my goggled eyes, and I'm like, oh god dang, what was that?
I think that's going to be a big.
It's like
hurdle.
a focused reflection.
It's like crazy, dude.
It's like taking magnifying glass of sun to the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to need to do something to step it up with like the F1 style machines before you start seeing UV in that form factor. I think that's the only thing that's going to stop or slow the proliferation of them. Is that I think manufacturers are going to be really reluctant to put that wavelength in like portable consumer machines. But
and if you look at the trend, I think most manufacturers nowadays are kind of leaning toward those like class 1, class 2 style lasers versus the class 4 lasers that were 4 years ago. Like the most prolific lasers. But
there
if
are
you
a
look
lot
at
of manufacturers moving to enclosure, like the aluminum extrusion style enclosures as a like a minimum accessory to make sure that they're
and even
base safety standards essentially.
Even X-Tool recently had like a campaign where they were offering a trade-in value for your class 1 style lasers to get something that was enclosed. So I think there's a lot of that lean towards safety that wasn't necessarily there 3-4 years ago, where people are like, okay, lasers are really actually becoming a thing. So now we need to figure out how to maybe incorporate more safety settings to protect people from themselves, because they might get into this thinking, It's just a thing that engraves away things, but you don't necessarily inherently know to protect your eyes.
I think they were actually like, man, we're selling a lot of these fucking things. We're gonna get sued.
That could be it. I mean, that's highly likely. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that they wouldn't get sued, but they would. It would create such a potential problem that like customs gets involved with safety standards and the FDA approvals.
FDA, yeah.
They would probably crack down there if there was like an influx of people blinding the crap out of themselves.
Or it could
Well, if you
just,
look at like the
kill
price,
the appetite in the market too, you know.
Yeah,
exactly. Like the price points have become so accessible now that I think it's probably in the best interest of all the laser companies to be like, how are we going to make these more safe for all the people that are buying these? Because now they are so accessible that even like people with lower budgets can get a hold of these, but they're still hyper dangerous machines. So
Yeah, stupid people are buying these now. Let's get ready.
All I can think about when we're talking about this is like, man, I got to take really good care of my class 4 lasers because you're not going to be able to find them anymore. And I find the utility of them extremely useful.
well, I mean, you could rip an enclosure off of a laser.
Sure, you could,
but you're paying for that enclosure.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the days of the $250 diode lasers or whatever, they're probably going away pretty quickly right now.
Well, it's like, dude, and that like the D1 Pro is such a good machine, and I don't think there's ever. I don't think we're ever going to see another. I don't think we're ever going to see another laser like it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
If you think of the D1, well, if you think of X Tool as an ecosystem by itself, just on an island, right? You have the D1 and the D1 Pro, and then you look at the price point of the next machine in their stack is double or more. You're talking, what is it, $1,400 for the next cheapest unit,
and still not probably the same
from $599 or whatever it was.
Right? Yeah. Like bang for the buck, square inches or square centimeters, however you want to look at it. Like those open gantry machines are just the best. I love my Nijis. I know you guys love X Tools too, but I love the Nijis, and they're like $400 for 1,000 millimeters by 800 millimeters.
Oh, you still got to send me that Niji Max, Kyle, because that would have been super nice for the table.
Oh, I bet, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Would that have even fit on the table?
It would have fit on the table. It's a big table, dude.
We just make the table bigger.
Table can seat.
Is it that big?
Can seat 8.
It's so big.
How big is it?
It's like
I gotta go.
It's like this big.
Nice.
Let's smash through some of these. So
right,
we got Mike C. Has anyone looked into small laser welders that appear to be coming out? I've actually been getting a lot of questions about those. Mostly they're the 3-in-1, 4-in-1 machines, though.
Yep, a lot of them.
Yeah, but I think he's talking about like the small ones or like the backpack ones, right? Because then there's the big boys that are like
the dedicated welders that don't have the exchangeable heads and stuff.
Yeah,
there's some that are into like the crowdfunding phases right now that are kind of like a desktop unit. So they're maybe like 8 inches wide by like 16 inches deep and 12 inches tall. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about or if he's talking about like the big industrial ones. But a lot of the ones that are out right now are like 4-in-1 unit, right? Like
they're a lot of them,
cleaner, cutter,
and they're not. I would call them anti-portable at that point because you have the big base unit, which also includes the weld spool, the gas connection if it requires it, stuff like that, and then you also have a separate chiller usually.
The one
sometimes a lot of them are air cooled.
It's portable, as in you can take it to a work site, set it up, but you are going to have some kind of a setup.
Yeah, so it's like checked baggage versus carry-on.
There you go. I like that.
Sure.
But from what I've heard, they do the job. From what I've heard, depending like what you're welding and what you're cleaning to. I mean, I haven't heard anything bad about them from what I've seen. The people who bought them for the purpose they got them for.
I will say those are another thing that have significantly come down in price in the last
Oh, for sure.
4 years. They have gotten smaller, and they are selling. So, like for example, the laser cleaner that Michael got, that is among the machines that are in the smaller footprint spectrum, right? Because 3 years ago, you weren't going to see a machine that size because it had 400 other components and was enormous and weighed probably a couple 100 pounds more.
Well, they used to be those like literal like desk sized like apparatuses. Not that long, like 5 years ago. It was like if you bought one, it was a desk with the hardware built into it, and you had to sit at it to use it.
Right.
So yeah, it's changed a lot for sure.
Or you had stuff conveying through your work area, and your work area was like,
I literally had the idea like
a moving platform.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. The one thing I had thought about was like buying a van that basically you could like adhere it to, you know, like pretty much like put in some locks in place, and then when you get there, take it off the cart and like take it out of the cart or put it on a cart in the van and like do that. So to me, places like where Anthony is right now with all that brick behind him, there's a lot of opportunity to like make some really good money working with cities,
dude.
Because
if you live in like a historic district or someplace where there's a lot of protected buildings, power washing is not going to do the job, because if you get water introducing those bricks, they will fracture or erode. But the laser cleaning on those can do a lot of good with minimal damage.
Yep.
So Matt introduced me to that idea a year ago, and it's something that I've kind of worked into my business plan for the future, like trying to get to something that I can do that laser cleaning with on a lot of these historic sites where you don't want to damage the buildings, because that's a huge liability, but you can still efficiently like clean off some of the shit.
Yeah, and also like schools, hospitals, like there's so many buildings up north.
Statues.
Yeah, in the south down here, not so much with the bricks, but like up north, a lot of opportunity. So, and with freezing and all that kind of stuff going on too, like you said, water, no good.
Graffiti removal.
10:04, Kyle, we are officially entering the lightning round.
All right.
Okay.
Clifton says, was there any issue with laser engraving wood that has been stained? Oh, we covered that already.
Yeah, covered that one.
Angelo, I set up my rotary and designed a logo in EasyCAD 2 with a perfect circle. At the end, I ended up with a warp circle squashed along the y-axis like this. Squish. There's a couple things. Firstly, with a rotary, you tune your rotation based off of basically steps per rotation. In 3D printing, that it's basically E-steps. And what that is it tells the driver how far the rotary needs to turn in order to be accurate to measure. So if your logo is X units wide, for example, then you need to have the correct steps per rotation in order to get that value. The tuning of those two things is a little different if you're using a hot dog style roller versus a chuck style roller. We're not going to get into the intricacies of that because we have videos about that. But the two things you need to look at are your steps per rotation, and you can test that by basically using a fabric measure to see what the actual measurement is from edge to edge and validating that as to what you're getting in the software. And number two is it could be an illusion. So the problem with making a circle and engraving it onto a curve is you're putting the basically a circle is a series of narrowings, right? Like what Matt's showing you.
Well, and the other thing too is if it has taper to it, right?
Yeah,
that matters.
And now you have a tapering thing, which is making it more egg shaped, right? Versus, So there's an optical illusion aspect to it too, where it might look off even if it is correct, which is the kick in the pants.
You end up
So-
having to make it wrong in order to make it look right.
Correct. It's like a 10% difference on the vertical.
Yeah, so make it 10% fatter, and that can help with the visual aspect of it. But if you're trying to be measurement accurate, measure it with a flexible ruler that can bend around the curve. Fabric measurement tool is great for that. Piece of string, whatever. And use that. You may need to tune your steps for rotation and make sure your scale output is correct. Hope that helps.
Yeah, there's always kind of a difference between what's like mathematically correct and what your eyes perceive to be true. And with the curves like that, it's definitely your eyes are going to see something that's narrower than what it really is on the mathematical aspect. So it's 10 to 15% is a good.
Yeah, I've got another good example of that one. Like that one that I was just showing you was kind of like an oblong one. But like this one looks very circular, right? Like that one's a really nice one. But when you really get up close to it and then turn it,
it's a little pointy on the bottom.
You can see what it is. And this one doesn't have as much as a taper. So when you're looking at it from here, pretty circular, but you can see it drops down. But everybody who looks at it when you're in person is like, oh, it's a beautiful circle.
The good news is Lightburn has a built-in taper tool.
Woo!
So you put in the top of your taper versus the bottom of your taper and then your design, and it'll mathematically do all the trigonometry and wizardry that it needs to do to make sure that it
what happens
comes
is
out looking 95%.
All right. Lightning round doesn't have time for fucking trigonometry.
Okay.
Let's keep
All
going.
right. Conical sections.
Madly Crafty. How bad is the smell of UV resin for 3D printing, Alex?
It stinks.
Got one for Christmas and haven't started.
Bro. So I have the air purifier from Elegoo, and that thing is freaking amazing. First of all, second of all, it's not great. I kind of like it in like a weird, sick way.
Like gasoline.
It's like but like not.
I like the smell of acrylic.
That's freakish. You should go to hell.
Probably.
I like the smell of burning leather.
Unless it's from Johnson's Plastics Plus.
Less than the aroma. What I would be concerned with is the health hazard. That shit's not good to breathe in, bro. So don't breathe it in. Make sure you're exhausting or filtering or whatever. The air purifier that I got does such a good job that it's really a minimal problem. But you're always able to do new stupid things. The other day I put a bunch of resin in a paint gun with alcohol to thin it down to try to coat things to get like a glossy finish on them. And I blasted my first blast without wearing a mask and like got a face full of it. And it
totally safe.
Was horribly unpleasant.
All the VOCs because you mixed it with alcohol too.
Not good, dude. It's not good. So just exercise caution, be safe, pay attention to what you're doing. And yeah, don't worry about this. If you can smell it, you're doing something wrong. You really need to deal with those fumes somehow because it's not healthy for you.
One thing that Resin said, because Resin Dragon Studios works with a lot of resin.
She does.
She has discussed, and maybe that's a topic we can discuss when she comes on, is that there are health hazards to repeated exposure of both touch and inhaling. You can generate a severe reaction to it in the form of like an allergy with repeated exposure. So you really don't want it on your hands, which is why even after you wash it before it's cured, you still want to be wearing gloves. And you need to worry about your inhalation as well. So airflow is important. Use your laser exhaust to keep air moving. That will help.
I've had all
the tools in the toolbox.
Easy time keeping it off my skin. It's keeping it out of my lungs. That's the hard part. So that is what I would.
Step 1, don't mix with alcohol. Step 2.
So hope that helps. Maybe come back and when Resin's on, ask your question if you have it again. If you're looking for tips, and hopefully Resin can help out with that too.
Just the tips.
John said, while you guys are talking about params, how can I adjust my non-MOPA source to make a nice Z mark on my 50 watt 200 lens? You do not need MOPA to get a Z mark. Although
non-MOPA like JPTLP or non-MOPA like Q switch Racus.
So that's a good point too. So technically speaking, the JPTLP series, while it isn't a pulse width unlocked laser, it is technically marketed as a MOPA laser.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I guess we're mincing definitions, but you can get a Z mark on a Racus, on a Max. It is all about adjusting your power. The key goal is to get heat down into it without ablating, which is the purpose behind the defocus, by the way. You're able to get more heat down and absorbed into the metal without it being focused enough in order to ablate.
Mm-hmm.
A 200 lens, I would argue, is a bigger roadblock to you than it being a non-MOPA source, because the bigger the lens you have, the bigger the defocus you need to do, and the more fine-tuning adjustment it's going to take in order to get that heat down properly. And it's slow. So don't try and speed it up. Those are my tips.
Some of the Racuses I think I have seen go up to around the 100 kilohertz frequency range. So if you can push your 50 up to 100 kilohertz, I think you're doing pretty good. Even with a 200 lens, a 250 to 300 lens might be better. I love the F380 for black marking on steel, which would be like a 250-ish lens. And that would be in the 90 to like 110 kilohertz on a 50 watt machine. So that's something that you could probably pull off. Slight defocus. Defocusing is kind of like a simulated way of raising your kilohertz, because when you defocus, you're opening up the spot of the beam. So you're effectively reducing the energy density of the spot on your laser, right? So by defocusing a little bit, you're spreading out the energy that you're delivering. So you're kind of like
you're
delivering
spreading the energy you're delivering out over physical area instead of time.
Right, exactly. Thank you. So there's kind of like a trade-off, but I think you should probably be able to pull it off with a 50 watt.
In context for the defocus too, with a 110 lens, it was what, like estimated 3 to 5 millimeters, Alex?
That was for a 110, yeah.
Yeah.
And wattage matters too. That was a 110 on a 30 watt laser. So it could be substantially more than that. It really
has
depends.
To do with your focal range too.
Yeah, you have to test. You have to test. So
with a 200, you're probably going to be close to double that, though.
Yeah.
The one thing I would add too
on a 30 watt laser.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the one thing I would add too is just like the testing for sure. Get to the point where like you barely hear any noise, to where it like is like
you shouldn't hear it at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and then once you hit that spot, I was gonna say, and then just do like a hair more, and that's the magic spot. Like, so that's basically the trick. And then knowing that, like, measure it, get the distance from, you know, the surface, the substrate that you're working with, and just kind of know that for when you're working on it. The other thing too is also like making sure that it's the same metal when you go to do this again. Because if it's 440 versus like 303 or whatever, the one that's got the elements in it. Yeah, thank you. Those can really make a difference. Also, if it's been polished or not makes a difference. Huge difference. Like, I literally have some pieces back here. I was looking for them, but I can't find them because I was just, here it is. So like this was me just playing around the other day. I mean, pretty nice dark black mark on that side, and on this side where it's like not shiny at all. I mean, it's garbage. Like, I've got them somewhere, but basically polished side, beautiful. Not polished.
Yeah, that looks like cold rolled steel, right? So it's probably got like some sort of like schmutz on it. That is like a layer of what they call it, slag.
One side has a protective coating on it. Like, it literally has like, you have to peel it off with like a chemical peel, and that's the side that's really good. Yeah.
So I recommend a lot of times to do like a light fast pass to just clean off all that crap, and then you get to your anneal pass. That way you're getting rid of all the surface stuff and you're removing that from the equation and just getting down to the steel and doing the black mark on it. So
Yeah. And we got Craig.
Well, we're in lightning.
I have no idea what you just said, but I will try and figure it out. My mom port GA 60 watt MOPA is a BSL, same pulse width requirements.
Discord and
Yeah,
Facebook
pulse
group,
width
my
has to
dude.
do. Yeah, join the Discord. Start a thread if you get stuck, or if you just
And don't
if
be
you don't
afraid
feel
to mess up
comfortable.
some material, man. Buy some cheap steel. Go to town.
Start the thread if you don't want your shit to get buried.
Your pulse width requirements has nothing to do with the controller, which is what the BSL board is. Your pulse width requirements are entirely to do with the laser source itself.
yeah, there's software
Which is-
inside the source that controls all that. So
Yeah. Just think about it like the laser is your car and the laser source is your engine, and the computer that runs the car is your controller. If your laser controller is trying to send V8 coding to run 8 cylinders, but your laser is a V10, well, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's only running 8 cylinders. Anyways, so I hope that helps. But yes, go check it out. Join the Discord if you have any questions, or the Facebook group.
or the LMA, because that's the best way to
or the
support
LMA.
the channel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we can dig into that more together as a community with you. Mickey says, which settings have you guys found for a smooth finish on a deep engrave for a 60 watt JPT MOPA? It depends on the material. It depends on the lens.
Cleanup passes. That's what you're
and integrate cleaning passes.
A
100%.
smooth finish starts with a smooth engraving.
Lower the power. I always just say lower the power. Lower the power, raise the frequency, and don't change anything else. Like if you do those two, usually it smooths it out pretty nice.
Yeah, if you're doing something that's not deep, like something that you would do super aggressively in 2 passes, and it would come out great. The problem when you take those parameters and you apply it to a deep engraving is it's far too aggressive, and it doesn't have an opportunity to clean that crap out. You end up with a lot of slag buildup that usually relates to a lot of junk in the corners or stuff getting buried, like areas that are being marked very quickly in succession end up with soot that's blocking the engrave area, which means you're going to end up with hills and valleys and lines, and that's often what causes that. So
rotate your hatch and do like a 5-to-1 deep engrave to clean up pass. It's kind of what I do.
That's a good starting
then that'll
point.
kind of clean things up and smooth them out for you.
Multi-layer pass video that Kyle made a while back is a really good tool to learn about that.
Yeah. And your cleaning pass to engraving quantity is going to depend on how aggressive you are as well with your engraving parameters.
For sure. That's just kind of like the starting point that I go with. But
absolutely. No, that's a great starting point. And auto rotation, like Anthony said, huge. We got Gar. What vibration isolation would be needed to mount my fiber MOPA in my motorhome? Is it just being parked and staying there, or are you trying to engrave stuff on the road as like a travel deal? If you're traveling with it, awesome. And you're stacking miles and you're doing a lot of travel, and this thing is like you're gonna put 10,000 miles a year with your fiber laser kind of deal.
Well, and also, is this like a split unit or is this like a all-in-one? Like what, you know?
Yeah, that matters.
2 more questions too, because one you could easily just put it on to like latch it to a table. The other one you need component parts, straps.
If it's an all-in-one, it would be safer because you won't have the separated base that you're also going to need to hold in place.
Well, the fiber cable.
And a split style laser by itself means that you only have the bed plate to mount down, which could be inconvenient. You end up losing space to like clamping hardware and stuff.
I think just like in a broader sense, like if you're just worried about vibrations damaging the machine, there's not a lot of concern. It's the fiber optic cable and the scan head that really need to be taken care of.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah.
those two things are secured, you're in good shape. The body of the machine and the vast
Pretty
majority of
static.
its components are just like electronics. So you don't need to worry about like every little jiggle causing irreparable harm. Just make sure your galvo scan head isn't slamming around on shit and
Yeah.
your
As far down as
I have a good analogy for this.
yeah.
You know how
Imagine
when you
your
were
car.
driving to school in a school bus and you sat behind the rear axle, every time you went over a big bump, the people in the back seat would fly into the ceiling and smash their head? Don't put it in the back. Put it toward the front, in front of the rear axle, where all the sponginess is. You want that. That'll take a lot of the vibration, and actually it's really more the impact than anything out of that situation.
So are you saying don't put your junk in the trunk?
Yes, put it up front.
Mm-hmm.
You want a
junk in
front.
the frunk.
Yeah. So
That rhymes.
I would say in the middle or forward a little bit if you can.
And while you're traveling, I'd say keep the galvo head as low as possible, because I have my
lot
HVAC
less
unit is
jiggle, for
right
sure.
next to my laser engraving workbench. And during the wintertime, when my heater kicks on, I've noticed when I was doing cups and the cups were like a little bit higher, and then I have my galvo head with the F330, so like 125 millimeter lens on it, it's higher up. And when the heater would turn on, I would actually notice jagged lines on my engraving because the heater's vibrating a little bit, which is transmitting to the table. And then the higher the galvo head is up, the more sway there is in that tower. So I was actually getting like, I had to throw away 2 cups because the engravings look like trash. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Maybe keep it
Yeah, I
down
mean,
lower
like,
while you're traveling.
Marking is like a whole other thing, right? Like,
Right, but it's still vibrations, I think.
no, yeah, I'm just
personally.
saying, like, that's going to be a whole nother set of challenges if you're trying
Yeah.
to mark while
While driving.
traveling.
Now,
Yeah.
another thing to
110 down
consider, you
I-5.
could put it in the passenger seat and just be engraving while you drive, right?
Tint your windows so you don't have to worry about, straight
I mean,
leaves.
I think the best advice I could give is put it in the passenger seat and put some lipstick on it, and then you've got a girlfriend.
And you can use HOV lanes.
One thing you could do.
Indeed, the HOV.
Look up the fatigue mats that you would put on the floor, the really heavy rubber
Yeah.
mats. Slap
Yeah.
that down and then
That'll make your new girlfriend
bolt it
much
down
more
and tension it
comfortable.
so it's not floating around,
Smushy.
or you don't want it
Alex.
sliding and bashing anything when you slam the brakes.
No.
Like Kyle's giving good advice, and Alex is like, "Oh, your girlfriend." What an
Just-
idiot!
Just slap
Have
some
you figured
lips.
out that hard drive yet? You dope!
No, it's too busy hanging out with your
What a
mom.
dummy!
Into branding. Used 100-watt fiber laser to get a black engraving on a pizza cutter. After a couple of weeks, it rusted. How can I get a permanent black mark that doesn't rust? The problem you experienced could be from a couple things.
Ablation.
So ablation is
Oxidation.
a huge factor. So the thing that protects your stuff from rusting before engraving is that there's typically like an oxide layer or protective coating over the steel, assuming it's stainless steel anyway. The process it goes through builds up more or less an oxide protective coating, and it doesn't rust, at least not easily. If you ding it up, if you expose subsurface and you make extra surface area out of what wasn't there before, that can generate area for rust to form. And if you look up passivization, that is basically what the stainless steel process or stainless steel material goes through as a process in order to protect the surface from rust. It's also the thing that causes the pretty colors to go away after you do a beautiful color marking. So keep that in mind as well. So in order to protect it, you don't want to ablate. You want to pull that black oxide coating that you're generating up to the surface, and make sure you're not engraving. If you can hear the engraving, it should sound like you're framing when you're doing a Z-mark. If you hear any noise beyond that, it means you are probably marking into the metal instead of surface.
Yep.
Affecting it.
Anthony sounds like my fucking therapist right now. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You don't see it there.
And how
Mhm.
would that make
Your
you feel?
therapist is just Miranda when she doesn't want to pay attention to you.
It makes me feel rusty.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I mean, Cal's spot on. Like
Can
when
that
you
be where we
see
end
any
this
kind of a
episode?
color layer on steel, you're creating oxidation, is what it
Yep.
is. So
Yep.
if you ablate to create the oxidation, then your oxidation isn't as like durable, and it's gonna eventually crust off, and then you've got bare metal, and it's gonna leave you vulnerable to rust, which is another form of oxidation.
Yep.
So if you just create that oxidation with no ablation, then your chances are much higher that it's going to be durable and not have any oxidation created around it, which is going to make it flake off. So yeah, spot on, bro.
A great thing you can look at, actually. Alex did a live stream a while back when he got that really awesome microscope. I think this is a fantastic example. If
Yeah.
you go and look at what those marks looked like, it's essentially the way these lasers work, at least, is they're pulse lasers, which means think of it like a dot matrix printer. Every little pulse is generating a little divot in the surface. And if you're creating an oxide layer across the top, it's going to provide some level of protection. You're probably going to want to apply some 3-in-1 oil to protect it, or in the case of a pizza cutter, if it's in use, some kind of canola oil or something food safe. But essentially, if you are engraving it and not just Z-marking it, those divots are now having enough energy to form a mark, and you're creating those divots, which is increasing your surface area, and also you're removing material instead of adding a layer, right? So you gotta make sure you're going through the process of putting in your Z-mark. And what you're experiencing is also the thing that a lot of people experience with color marking. So if you're going for greens, reds, blues, oranges, rainbow effects, whatever, and you don't go through the validation that it's going to hold up, you're going to end up with products that you sell this week, and in a week, 2 weeks, 3 months down the road, it's sitting on somebody's wall in their basement, in their man cave, and that moisture in the air is just enough to cause rust to form, and then they get pissed.
If you do it right, it doesn't rust. And
Yeah.
I just had someone bring in fact, we did a video on it. Do you remember way back in the day, I did a video called like how to engrave stainless steel, and in it we did a trowel.
Yeah, you did an annealing.
That just came back to me, and the anneal wasn't rusted, but the trowel was, because it was galvanized steel. And so the whole trowel around the engraving was
starting to rust away a
literally
little bit.
starting to rust. And
Nice.
she wasn't like mad or anything. She just wanted some advice on how to like clean it up. So I told her what to do, which isn't relevant. But the fact is, if you put a good oxide layer on that metal, it is not going to rust.
Yep.
So you have to refine that. If you are getting those results, and you're seeing the metal degrade in that way, you have to circle back around.
It's process related.
Yeah, it's process
Typically.
Yep.
If you're working with like a funky mild steel that has like a weird coating on it that makes it look like stainless, that's a whole nother problem. That's a material issue.
Yeah.
But because mild steel doesn't have the same protective situation, your engraving would probably hold up better than the rest of it.
metal, yeah.
I
Kinda
think
like
we'd
Alex's
all argue
example.
that's pretty unlikely, though,
Yeah.
given the
On a pizza cutter.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. I know that was probably longer than you were looking for, but that is a complicated topic and also a reason why we haven't approached color marking yet as a video, because there's so much to it, and there are definitely going to be people who are upset with the results they get because of not fine-tuning the results they're getting.
Nobody's going to be happy with that content.
No.
Because
So we'll get there
different for
eventually,
everyone.
probably, but it's not a right now thing.
And when we do, no one's going to be happy with it.
G. Smith says, anyone know the hole pattern on a typical fiber laser bed? From center of hole to center of hole, I measure 24 millimeters with caliper. Holes are 5.88. I'm using an array in Lightburn for jigs. Holes are off. The most common spacing for split style fiber, most add-on plates, and a few combo units like the all-in-one style ones are typically 25 millimeter or 50 millimeter, because they are made in countries that use millimeters as their primary form of measurement. And those are even values that are easy to reproduce in a CNC, which make it easy to reproduce for making tools for it. And they want it to be easy. Unfortunately, there are some manufacturers that just have weird processes or don't care, or they want a certain number of holes in the given area that they shrunk their space down to. I don't know. But some have come across to me and been validated at like 23.88 and 24.1. And I would say those are the oddballs in the industry, right? Typically, they're 25 millimeter or 50 millimeter, and that's pretty much your normal spacing.
That's center to center, not
center to center, not
edge to edge or anything like that. Yeah.
On my Wisely, it's 50 millimeter. On literally every other laser in my shop that's a galvo is 25 millimeter. And on the Wisely, I actually have the silent manufacturing plate on it, which brings it down to smaller. So it's like 12 and a half, or I think.
Wow.
But
yeah, I think my Haoshin's like
or maybe it's 25.
I think the SFX is 50. So but yeah, it goes all over the place.
Some of the tips I have for you are going to be some of the tips that are also coming in a future fixture video. But I think I also covered it in my really old fixture video that I don't even know. No, it's on the channel. So make sure you're doing center to center in the array tool in Lightburn. That is a super common error to have, and it's because it's a radio button and it's halfway through the page. It is the most common thing to miss, because there are both center to center and edge to edge. And edge to edge is obviously the space from the corner of the circle to the corner instead of center. Unfortunately, if it's a weird measurement, you just gotta get some thin scrap material, and I would make 2 circles and make a box around it to cut it out and form it that way, and do some validation cuts with different measurements. Do 24 point whatever, 24.1. If it's bigger, go up another 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3 and fine tune it that way. And the problem with that is it's going to be unique to your laser bed. And that what also sucks about that is if you do have one of those oddball laser beds that are 24.xxx measurement, that means that standard expansion plates aren't going to work well for you because they're designed around an even hole spacing of 25 or 50. So just keep that in mind. If you get frustrated with it, you may end up replacing the bed instead of getting an add-on plate. But hope that helps. And John says, I've been testing warping the 0.5 millimeter stainless cards on Amazon. And he was talking about the Z-Mark earlier. Minus 5 millimeter defocus. So you may need to go bigger because 5 millimeter is still within the range of what we would see on like a 110 lens. and a 200 millimeter lens has like 50% more focal range than a 110.
Also, something I would check into is like with my 200 millimeter lens on my 30 watt, I would rotate the hatch. So I don't know if you're trying to do it in maybe one pass really slow, but I would speed it up a little bit and do 3 passes at like 120-degree rotation. So
Spread the
you would
heat
actually,
out.
yeah, and you would actually get a black mark from different angles.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes if you go from one angle, it looks black if you look from the bottom up, but if you look from the sides or the top, it's kind of like silvery or even blue.
Yep.
So maybe instead of like going real slow with a tight line interval, go a little bit faster, but from 3 different angles, do the 3 passes with the 120 degrees rotation and see if maybe that helps out.
Mhm.
And maybe it will spread out the heat enough that it won't warp as badly.
And there you go. But I think that's it for this week. We're an hour and a half in.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a 30-minute bonus on this one. If you have more questions and you're stuck and you need an immediate answer, hit up the Discord or the Facebook or support us on the LMA, whatever
Yeah,
works for
for
you.
sure.
It would
Please.
be
Yeah.
appreciated. Yeah, if not, if you want the verbal, hit us up next Tuesday and we'll be here like normal, smashing through the Q&A and helping everybody out. And in a future upcoming week, we'll have Resin join us, and that'll be awesome too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need a new editing PC. So if you're not already a member over at the LMA, please go sign up now because this is effed. I'm so screwed right now. I need to work through this. Seriously, though, guys, thank you so much for being here live with us tonight. It means a lot to us that you guys come out week after week to listen to this stupid-ass show. Even dumber is Emergency Stop, which we recorded an episode of for you guys last week. Surprise. Matt's just like, I didn't.
Matt wasn't there.
Matt's
He
still
was,
dead.
Matt was not there. Matt was
I said
replaced
good
by
night,
part of it
John
whatsoever.
Matt was replaced by Jonathan. So
RAI.
I will have more news about that soon. I haven't quite finished giving it the edit treatment that I want to give it yet, but I don't remember who asked. Somebody asked, "Oh, it'd be really nice to get a new episode of Emergency Stop," and I was like, "It would, wouldn't it?"
Hmm.
And
When
we
I-
made it happen.
When I said you sounded like my therapist, Anthony, it's because you are during Emergency Stop. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. How does that make you feel?
Yep.
Anyway, guys, we're way over time. I hope you got value out of this one. If you did, don't forget to smash the like button. Let everybody else know the content is good. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified the next time we go live. We really love and adore all of you. One more shout out to Johnson Plastics Plus. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Pew, pew, pew.